Hi, my name is Desiree Yard and I'm with Center Stage Media Project. Today we're interviewing Terry Vivian, businessman, to hear his story. Hi Terry, how are you doing today?
A little frustrated,
Yeah, I hear
be
you.
truthful, but faced with a good-looking girl,
Well,
that goes away.
Well, thank you. Well, I have some questions for you today. First being, what do you think is the secret to being a successful entrepreneur?
Well, it's hard work, and most people give up after a short while. You've got to dedicate. You don't get many weekends off.
Right.
I started a business. I've had several businesses, all successful.
How many businesses have you had?
Well, I started one in England and 4 in the United States.
Wow.
I sold 3 of them,
Okay.
and eventually sold the last one, Vivian Industries.
I see. And where were you during World War II, and
What was I doing?
how did it impact you?
Well, it impacted me by being blown up.
Oh my goodness.
I have a hole in the top of my head to prove it. I was in a company called Vickers Aviation in 1940, and the Germans came over and blew to hell and killed about a couple of thousand people and got me in the head. I was paralyzed, and they gave me 6 days to live, but I was lucky. A surgeon took interest in me and operated on me. He said we'd do a 50-50 if I could get you off the table and walking. I promised him, and I lived to 120.
Wow.
I'd have promised 2,000. I didn't give a damn, you know.
That's an incredible story, bravery and courage.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what your political party affiliation is, if you have any?
What was it?
Your political party affiliation.
Oh,
Where do you stand?
how do I stand? Confused.
Yeah, like the rest of us, right?
I've been watching them all, and quite honestly, not one of them is, in my opinion, capability of being a president of the United States.
Yeah.
But I think I favor the Democrats a little bit more than I certainly won't vote for Trump.
No.
No. So really, I'm in the middle.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, what brought you out to the States? What decided you to move from the UK out to the US?
Well, this may sound crazy to you, but I had a beautiful home in England. I was running 5 factories for people that thought I was God's gift to the human race because they were making a lot of money for them. And it was one wet Friday, and the wipers were going slosh, 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 slosh. And I picked up one of those rags at the check stand, which showed lots of girls in bikinis. That was not the reason I came. And I was running around in California sunshine. And I thought, it never stops raining in England. So I got home on Friday and I said to my wife, how about emigrating? So she said, why? I said, I don't know, we've never done it, we've done something different. So she said, aren't you happy? I said, yes. Happy with me? Yes. Happy with the job? Yes. We own a home, we have a good job, we have everything we want, good money. I said, yeah, but let's go someplace else.
Right.
I'm 40 years old and I've been here too many years. I want to go somewhere else.
Right?
So we talked about Canada, Australia, various other countries on Saturday, and then Sunday we said, how about the States? Let's buy a car on the East Coast, drive all through to California, give myself, say, 3-4 weeks to get a job, and if I can't find a job within that time, I'll go someplace else. Well, unfortunately, the company I worked for was very kind and nice, and I didn't want to let them down. I gave them 4 months' notice, but unfortunately, it turned into 7 months' notice.
Oh, no.
I was supposed to be coming in 1960, and it went into 1961. That meant we would be arriving on the East Coast in the winter.
Oh, no.
So we thought, that's not a good idea.
No.
Driving on the wrong side of the road in snow,
Right.
we might kill one of the local residents,
That was
which
smart
is not a good way to
of
start.
you.
So we flew over to California, and I arrived on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, I went looking for a car. On the same day, I got a ticket for parking in a red zone. And the officer said, "Is that your car?" And I said, "Yes, it is. I'd just been to get a book on driving into California." And he said, "Is that your car?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "You're parked by a red curb." I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, what does that mean to you?" This was in Santa Monica. I said, "Well, there's a green there and yellow and that." I said, "You're making the place look pretty." Well, it didn't go down too good. Oh, no. And I got a ticket. But
darn it. Happens to the best of us.
Well, welcome to America. I'm here
America.
one day and I get a ticket the next day.
But the California sunshine is nice, isn't it?
Well, I tried one or two places, and I wasn't a citizen, so I couldn't get a job. And I went to a company in Fullerton, Beckman Instruments, and they started me the following week. So within 2 weeks of arriving, I was working at Beckman.
There you go. Where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Well, it was interesting because I was working on things I've never heard of: spectrophotometers, oxygen sensors, pH meters. So I had to learn all about them. Then they said to me, after being there 6 months, "Now we want you to redesign them." Oh. Well, I worked there from 61 to 68. And then 1968, the bug got me again to start a business. So my poor suffering wife said, "Oh no, here we go again." Oh my heavens.
What business was that this time?
Well, I started on a place about 2 foot by 2 foot, I think it was. It was the smallest building you have ever seen. That was my factory. I had a box to sit on, and the problem was the machine, I had one machine, and it had to have water, cooling, and exhaust. So I had a toilet there, so I connect a hose pipe to the faucet in the toilet and one from the machine into the toilet.
Oh my goodness.
So if you needed to use the toilet, I had to stop the machine and take all the pipes away.
Oh my goodness.
Well, my first customer said, "Can I use your toilet?" I said, "Yes, just a minute, I've got to stop the machine, take all the pipes off." Well, I still had that company working for them when I quit.
Wow.
36 years later.
Wow, it just shows what you can make do with, right?
Yes, which back to the question of, what makes an interpreter? Stupidity, insanity.
Right, those two things you gotta have.
But you look at the end,
Right.
And of course I ended up with the Vivian Industries had 67 people.
Wow.
And I had 10 machines running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I never had a salesman, I never advertised it, and I never made a cold call. We had companies from all over the states begging us to do work.
Well, I heard the best form of advertisement is word of mouth, which I guess that's what was your experience. That's wonderful.
Well, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But 36 ladies, but we had a good group.
That's such an inspiring
Some of the girls
story.
worked for me for 20 years, 22 years. One of them worked for me for 32 years.
Wow. Sounds like you gave your employees security.
Had a carrot we dangled in front of them. The carrot was, the longer you work for me, the more your retirement plan will be.
That's
See?
great.
So that was
Little
good.
incentive, right?
Yes.
Hey, I heard something really interesting, that when your father came to the States, he actually ended up in Washington, D.C. at Ford's Theater the night that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Is that true?
Well, my father was the surveyor from east to west for the railroad.
Oh, I see.
And during that time, obviously, the country was all, and he was the surveyor ahead of the railroad and surveyed the route. And the man that was with him was a fellow named Buffalo Bill, who never killed a buffalo in his life, because there isn't any buffalo in England, America. They're all bison.
Right.
So you can't call him Bison Bill, can you? So he and them got quite buddy. And there's another episode where when he came to England and they decided to shoot things off a wall, my father and he. Well, you don't have guns in England, so the next thing there was the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and everybody else arrived there. What's going on? Anyway, that's another story. He came, as I said, the surveyor, and as such, he was a British, of course, a Britisher, and he never did get American citizenship. And Lincoln was interested in the railway, naturally, and so he invited my father to the White House and had quite a long session there. So he got to know Lincoln fairly well. And then Lincoln sent him an invitation to be at the Ford Theatre. As you know, when Lincoln is there or presence there, the only people that come are by invitation only.
I see.
And so my father Lincoln invited my father to Ford's Theatre, and my father was in the Ford's Theatre when Lincoln was shot.
Wow.
And so ended the friendship with Lincoln.
Wow, that's an incredible story. You must feel
I know.
sort of excited to be able to share
I wonder if
that.
it's all true. Yes, it is. Matter of interest, I was married to my first wife in England in 1951.
Wow.
And we were married until she died on 98. That's nearly 50 years. Wow. I met my second wife in 1972 in England. And she was a nurse looking after my mother in England, was in charge of the ward, and that's how I met her.
I see.
And she decided, apparently I found out later that when she came, I met her, she fell in love with me.
Aww.
Now, I was already married,
Right.
but she came to the States, and my wife here invited her to come over on a vacation. They got on like house on fire. They really got on fine. So my first wife, Helen, and Joyce, my second wife, got on fine.
Wow.
So when she came over, my Helen said, "We have an empty room, stay with us." So she stayed with us for nearly 20 years.
Wow.
So she knew what she was getting when she married me, because Helen died in 98 and Joyce married me in 2000.
I see.
But we'd been in love since 72.
Wow.
And my first wife didn't mind
Wow.
because, well, you see, my first wife, she was, before we were married, she said, "I'd love to marry you," when I asked her to marry me. And she said, "Well, I got to tell you something first." She was badly raped several times in the service, over and over again, and she couldn't bear anybody touching her. So she said there'll be no lovemaking at all, and if you're prepared for that, I'll be a good wife. She was a good wife, but there was no, well, putting it crudely, no sex, no contact, no touching. And Joyce was completely reverse. So my first wife used to shove my wife-to-be together. You know, we'd go on a cruise, and my Helen would say, you two have the big double bed, and I'll sleep in the other cabin, you know. So, little
Quite a love
unusual, but, you know. Anyway,
Sounds
so I
like you
had
all
that
helped
as
each other out.
yeah, I've lived a strange life, I can tell you.
Have you ever considered writing a book?
I did write a book.
Oh, you did?
I did.
What was it
There's
called?
about half a dozen copies. It was a science fiction story about time travel.
Wow.
This has always fascinated me.
I'd love to read it.
Yeah, it's about the world as I would like it
Right.
in 4,000 years ahead.
Oh, that's
no war,
exciting.
no famine, no shortage. Anyway, that's another thing. I did sell a copy,
What?
one copy, yeah.
Well, I'd like to buy another. But I'd like to talk to you now about Walnut Village, where we are now, and your affiliation with the community. I've heard you've done a lot for the Performing Arts Center. Can you tell us
Yes.
about that?
Well, I do, as you know, we've already said about the performing arts.
Right. So I just
Some of the other things I do is a lot of residents here have whole phonograph records, so I take those and put them on a CD for them. Also, a lot of them have those old half-inch tapes, you know, the old cassettes.
Right.
One of them said to me, could you put a cassette onto a DVD for me? And I said, yes. And she turned up with 10.
Oh my goodness.
So I do them. And
It
then
sounds like you're the IT guy
Judy
around
Phillips said, I have lots of those color slides, you know, the 40. You wouldn't know about those. That was before your time.
Oh, I remember this, the disc slides,
Little,
right?
yeah. So she said, could you do some of those for me and put them on a DVD? And I said, sure. I have a program which those old slides all go red, you know. And I have a program which brings it back to about 85% of the original color, which is really nice. So she came up with 600.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you can get 600 on a 2-hour DVD, so, but everyone had to be scanned and, you know.
Sounds like you have a big
So I do a
heart
lot
to
of
help.
stuff for people.
That's great.
Some of them want old pictures, like Tom wanted an example. He had a picture of his sister that died, and it was a group. And he said, I want just her,
Right.
none of the group. So I figured out how to get rid of the rest of them and just have her. And you probably won't remember that, but he was on the stage and sang, Mary, Mary. That was the big picture. That was the picture I did. He had you photographed it, yeah. And he sang to Mary, Mary. Well, that was the picture I got out of the group. So I do all sorts of stuff with different residents.
Very innovative.
Anything like at the moment, Judy wants me. Judy is the person in charge of all the entertainments here. And Judy has just given me a DVD and which of a cruise, and there's a ton of junk on there which she doesn't want, and it's in chapters, and every time a chapter stops, you know, it's blank. So I'm taking all the blanks out and I'm taking all the junk out, and I'll probably turn into about a 2-hour movie for her of this cruise.
Wow.
So I'm doing that right now.
You're helping her, but is it also sort of a hobby? You enjoy it? Or
Oh
do you
yeah, I
charge
don't
them?
get paid.
Right. You do it out of the
I
kindness
spend
of your
about
heart.
$300 a month on, and I do birthday cards for everybody.
Aw.
Everybody, I do a different birthday card. That's a lot sometimes when you have 25 birthdays in one.
Well, I hear a lot about what you're doing for other people. Can you tell me some of your goals, if you have
My
any
goals?
currently?
Yeah. Stop having radiations on my head.
hear you.
Stop getting cancers on my head. Stop feeling exhausted.
Lots
Carry
of
on
water.
admiring good-looking girls. These are most of my goals, you know. When I stop looking at girls and good-looking women, I shall just bury me, because I'm dead.
Well, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. That's
Well, my
good.
wife used to say, you can look, but you do not touch.
I see. Well, she was a very strong woman.
That was okay. So now all I do is look.
Well, better than nothing, I guess, right? Well, Terry, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And,
Well, that's it.
we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in.
Over and out.